We talk a lot about niching in the agency world, picking an industry, go deep, specialize. But here's the uncomfortable truth. In today's market, picking an industry isn't enough anymore. And a lot of capable agencies can feel that, even if they can't quite name why. Execution is easier to buy, capability is everywhere, and we do great work doesn't help clients feel confident making a decision when the stakes feel higher. What actually cuts through now is being clear about the outcome you're willing to stand behind. And that's where you might hesitate because choosing an outcome feels risky. It feels like you might be boxing yourself in or closing doors you still want open. So, in this episode, we're going to unpack what outcome niching really means and what it doesn't. We'll talk about how to choose an outcome without making your agency smaller, the guardrails that make that decision work, and why not choosing is still a choice, one that gets heavier over time. If you felt like you're standing at the edge of your next stage, but haven't quite named what comes next, stay with me. This episode will help you think it through. Welcome to the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. If you want to grow an agency to 7 figures and beyond without working more hours in your business, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Audrey Joy Kwan. I know what it takes to build an agency, including supporting an agency owner in selling and exiting. I also have a master's degree in communications, specializing in organizational development. My team and I have worked behind the scenes of multiple 7-figure agencies and have coached and consulted with over 150 agency owners. All this to say, when you join us on the Small But Mighty Agency podcast, you get real world experience and practical tips that help you work less, earn more, and lead with integrity. So let's go. Hi friends, welcome back to the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. In the last episode, we talked about outcome clarity, why it matters more than ever, and why so many capable agencies are feeling friction right now, even when the work is strong. Today, I want to take that one step further because believing that outcome clarity matters and actually choosing an outcome you're willing to stand behind are two very different things. This episode is about that decision. Specifically, we're going to talk about outcome niching, what it actually means, what it doesn't mean, and how to choose an outcome niche without making your agency smaller, heavier, or boxed in. Before we get into it, quick note, these are exactly the kinds of conversations we have inside agency together. It's the community I run for small but mighty agency owners who want to think clearly about positioning, partnerships, and growth without posturing or pitches. I also host a free strategic partnership mixer where agency owners come together to compare notes and talk through what's really changing in the market. If you'd like to RSVP, check it out at agencytogether.com/mixer-event, and the link is also in the show notes. All right, let's get into it. Now, here is what I see happen a lot. An agency owner listens to a conversation about outcome clarity and thinks, oh, yes, that makes sense, I get it. But when it comes time to choose an outcome, to actually name it and to shape the business around it, and to let it guide decisions, things start to get wobbly because that's when the questions show up. What if I pick the wrong thing? Or what if this limits me? What if this scares clients away? And what if I'm wrong? So instead of choosing, you hover. You clean up your messaging, you tweak your website, and you refine how you talk about services. But you stop short of the real decision. And that's the distinction I want to make today. Outcome clarity is understanding that outcomes matter, but outcome niching is committing to one. Most agencies are still positioning around what they do, their offers, their channels, and their processes. But outcome niching shifts the anchor entirely. Let me define this simply. An outcome niche is the specific result your agency is willing to stand behind. So clients know when to bring you in and your business stops trying to be everything at once. That's it. And here's an important distinction. An industry niche tells people who you work with. An outcome niche tells people what you're willing to stand behind and when it makes sense to involve you. In the market we're in now, the outcome is what cuts through. A lot of resistance I see around outcome niching doesn't actually come from the idea itself. It comes from what people think it means. When you hear outcome niching, you might jump to extremes. You imagine being boxed in, overpromising results, or making a decision you can't undo. So it's important to be really clear about what outcome niching is not. Outcome niching is not a list of services. It's not a channel focus. It's not a vague promise like we help you grow, and it's not a guarantee you can't control. It's also not a forever decision you're locked into. Outcome niching isn't about shrinking your business. It's about removing friction for your clients and for you. And the most common concern I hear is that if I choose an outcome niche, I'll be boxed in. And I want to reframe it. Outcome niching isn't a cage, it's a filter. It doesn't reduce your options, it reduces the noise. Without an outcome anchor, everything is technically in scope. Pricing requires explanation, proposals feel heavier, and sales conversations turn into education. Choosing an outcome doesn't limit you, it gives your business a spine. Once you start thinking in terms of outcomes, the next question is usually a practical one. How do you choose an outcome without making your business feel heavier or riskier? That's where guardrails come in. These aren't rules, they're not constraints. They're what makes outcome niching workable, responsible, and sustainable. When these guardrails are in place, choosing an outcome actually creates more ease, not less. So let's walk through them. The first guardrail is getting honest about what you're really solving. This isn't about deliverables, it's about the business problem your work reliably helps move. A lot of agencies stop at the surface level here because surface problems are easy to name. Traffic is down, leads aren't converting, engagement feels flat. But those are symptoms. Outcome lives one layer deeper. For a branding or creative agency, a client might say, our website isn't converting, or people don't really get what we do. But the outcome usually isn't a new brand or a better website. It's more often about reducing confusion in the buying process, helping the right prospects self-qualify faster, increasing confidence at the moment of decision, or shortening the time it takes someone to say yes. In those cases, the brand isn't the end goal. The brand is the lever. Now, the same thing shows up for SEO agencies. An SEO client might come in saying, we need more traffic, or our rankings dropped, or we want to be number one for these keywords. But traffic and ranking are rarely the real outcome. The outcome might actually be increasing qualified demand, not just visit, and attracting the right type of buyer earlier in the decision process, or reducing reliance on paid channels and improving conversion from search traffic into pipeline or revenue. Here too, SEO isn't the end goal. SEO is the lever. And this distinction really matters. When you anchor your positioning to the deliverable or the metric, the work gets questioned. Clients debate keywords, tactics, and timeline. When you anchor to the outcome, your judgment gets trusted. This is where pattern recognition comes in. If you look at your strongest SEO or creative engagement, ask yourself, what actually changed on the other side of the work? Did leads become more qualified? Did sales conversations get easier? Did pipeline become more predictable? That reoccurring shift is usually the outcome you're already helping create, even if you haven't named it yet. So dig deep, name it, and start exploring how to better own the outcome. Guardrail number 2, what needs to be true for success? The second guardrail is one most agencies skip. Every outcome has conditions, things that need to be true for you to responsibly stand behind the result. For a creative or branding engagement, that might include things like access to stakeholders, clarity in who the brand is actually for, willingness to make trade-offs, alignment across leadership, and follow through beyond the visual work. Naming these conditions isn't about being picky or exclusive. It's about being honest about what your work can influence and what it can't. And in a market where clients are more cautious and more aware of risk, that honesty builds trust. These conditions act as guardrails and opportunities. They protect the outcome, they protect your team, and they protect your reputation. Guardrail number 3, when you say no. This is where outcome ownership becomes real. Not every client or situation supports the outcome you're standing behind. Sometimes the constraints are not met, sometimes expectations are misaligned, sometimes the problem they want solved isn't the one you're best equipped to address. For a branding agency, that might look like being asked to refresh the visuals when the real issue is internal misalignment or unclear positioning. Saying yes in those moments doesn't help the client, and it doesn't support the outcome you're willing to stand behind. Saying no isn't a failure of positioning, it's part of owning outcomes. And ironically, it's often what makes the right clients trust you more. I want to pause here and name something gently. If you're listening to this and thinking, I'm not ready to choose yet, it's usually not because you're stuck or indecisive. It's more often because you're capable at a lot of things. You've delivered good work across different clients, different problems, different stages. And because of that, it can feel risky to draw a clear line and say, this is the outcome we stand behind. So instead, you hover. You tell yourself you'll come back to it later. You keep your positioning flexible. You wait for more certainty. But here's the part that's easy to miss. Operating without a clear outcome niche is still a choice. It's a choice to keep explaining your value in every sales conversation, and a choice to absorb uncertainty that you don't fully control. And none of those choices are wrong. But in this market, they do get heavier over time because buyers are more cautious, decisions feel riskier. And the agencies that move forward with ease are the ones who make it easier for clients to say, yes, this is the right move. Outcome niching isn't about closing doors. It's about deciding which decisions you want to make easier for your clients and for yourself. So let's clarify something that often gets tangled in agency conversations. When clients hire an agency, they are not just buying execution, they are trying to reduce risk. But there are two very different kinds of risk at play. Most agencies talk about delivery risk. Will the work get done on time, to spec, and within scope? And that matters. Clients need to trust that execution is solid. But delivery risk is rarely the risk that keeps them up at night. What clients are far more concerned about is outcome risk. Are we solving the right problems in the first place? Is this the right move right now? Will this actually create the result we need or just more activity? In a cautious market, outcome risk carries more weight than delivery risk. Clients are not just asking, can you do this? They're asking, is this the right thing to do? This is where outcome niching changes the conversation. When you're clear about the outcome you're willing to stand behind, you help clients reduce outcome risk. You're not just delivering work, you're helping them make better decisions before the work even starts. And that confidence doesn't come from sounding clever, it comes from pattern recognition. Outcome focused agencies have seen the same situations repeat, the same bottleneck, the same trade offs, the same places where effort does not equal progress. That pattern recognition sharpens diagnosis, and better diagnosis lowers outcome risk for the client. This is why outcome niched agencies carry more weight in conversations, not because they promise more, but because they help clients feel safer choosing a direction. So now the question becomes, how do you actually choose an outcome in a way that reduces risk for your clients and for you? You don't need a perfect answer to move forward. You just need one that's defensible and intentional. If you're listening and thinking, okay, but how do I actually choose? Here's a simple way to approach it. First, look for the repeatable win. What outcome shows up most consistently in your best work? Second, choose the outcome where you have the strongest leverage, where your judgment matters, not just execution. And third, pressure test it against the three guardrails. Can you clearly name what you're solving? What needs to be true for that outcome to happen? And when it's actually a no. And remember, you're not choosing forever. You're choosing what you want to be known for next. When you commit to an outcome niche, the shift isn't just external. Something changes in how your agency operates because once the outcome is clear, decisions stop floating. Sales conversations get simpler because you're no longer explaining everything. Referrals get sharper because people know exactly when to send someone your way. And delivery becomes more repeatable because the work is anchored to the same result. And over time, something important happens. You can step out of day-to-day execution, not by adding more people, but by creating focus the business can actually run on. And that's what momentum for a small but mighty agency looks like. So I want to bring this back to you because at the end of the day, outcome niching isn't a branding exercise. It's a leadership decision. So what outcome are you willing to stand behind next? What needs to be true for you to own it? And what are you willing to say no to in order to protect it? If that answer still feels a little fuzzy, that doesn't mean you're behind. It usually means you're standing at the edge of your next stage. And decisions like this are easier when you're not making them in isolation. If you want a place to pressure test this thinking with other agency owners who understand the nuance of this moment, I host something called the Agency Together Mixer. It's a facilitated space for real conversation, no pitches, no pressure. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if this episode sparked something for you, share it with another agency owner who might need to hear it. Thanks for spending this time with me today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me at the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you hit the follow or subscribe button in your podcast app and share it with a friend. I'll see you on the next one.